afternoon. My name is Dr. S. Krishnan. I'm Associate Professor with Syrian School of Law and Governance, Jaipur National University. We met last time to discuss about the basic structure of legal and constitutional history. Now, this time I'll be dealing with world history, especially dealing with the initial topics of Fall of Constantinople till Protestant Reformation. Now, before explaining about the topic, I'll be discussing about why this topic is important, why this subject is important. World history is important in a sense to know about the current affairs, to know about the international system today. We need to know about the past. To know about the past, we need to go way beyond what happened during that time of the world. Now, for one of the topics that I've dealt with initially is the fall of Constantinople. Now, before the start of the modern age, which happened in 15th and 16th centuries, we had to deal with the fall of Constantinople to the Turks. Now, question is, what is Constantinople? Where is Constantinople? Constantinople is the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, which is also called the Byzantine Empire. And initially, the Eastern Roman Empire was once part of the Roman Empire. Through the ages, Roman Empire was considered as one of the strongest empires in the whole world. Now, later stage, when the rulers became weak, the empire split into Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire. Eastern Roman Empire, just now I said, it just became Byzantine Empire, and its capital shifted towards Constantinople, which today present day is called Istanbul. Now, to talk about the fall of Constantinople is to talk about the reasons why it fell. One of the reasons is because it never had the technology that the Turks had, and Ottoman Empire had a vast advanced army that had coordination, whereas the Eastern Roman Empire never got the coordination they want from the Western Roman Empire. Second thing is the religion. There was internal problems with the Eastern Roman Empire in terms of religion, and whereas in Ottoman Empire, one religion was there. So it was like a kind of a proceeds between them, between Eastern Roman Empire and Turkey, also known as the Ottoman Empire. Now, what do you mean by Crusades? Crusades is actually a holy war between the Christians and the Muslims. So again, religious warfare. Second reason is that of the repeating again. Second reason is that of the kind of technology it never had to tackle Turkish armies. The technology which I'm talking about is that of the use of cannon. Even though they were approached by one person to use cannon, but it could not meet the financial demands of the person who actually invented the cannon. This proved an advantage to the Turkish Empire under the rule of Sultan Mehmed II. He took the advantage, bought the cannon, which is thrice the wages, thrice the amount, and used that against the forts in Constantinople, which demolished the whole, Then that brought about the change in the social system, especially in terms of social and economic as well. Initially, the system which Eastern Roman Empire had was that of a restricted society. Now, after the fall of the Constantinople, Turks took over, prompting Europeans to shift the trade routes to another area. Initially, the trade route, which was through Egypt, through the Suez Canal, then towards India as well as to the rest of the Asian parts. Now, after the Turks came into existence, after the Turks defeated the Eastern Roman Empire, the Europeans had to make plans around the African continent to India as well as China. Now, besides the change of routes, There was also social changes. Social changes in the sense growth of the middle class, also called as the bourgeoisie. Then there was also political changes after the fall of Constantinople. When I talk about political changes, it means the major changes confronted each other for European hegemony. Spain dominated in the 16th century, which gave rise to a period called Renaissance, rebirth. Renaissance, again I'm repeating, means rebirth, means new age has come up. The fall of Constantinople represented a new age, new era for the people to explore new areas, new geographical areas, new technologies, science and literature, and other things as well. The old age was replaced by the new ones. Then there were also economic changes, new ways of producing and trading, rise of capitalism, crisis of feudalism came. There was crisis of feudalism. Then feudalism was replaced or thrown out. Then there was a creation of a system called the guild system, which is meant for the merchants. So merchants were given the freedom to trade the products they want. They want to explore new areas. Then you have cultural changes. Cultural changes in terms of arts and architecture, sculptures, literatures. Then you have a period of humanism. Then there are also geographical changes. Initially, Portuguese and Spanish started discovering America, Africa, and Asia. Then you had religious changes as well. That means there was a new crisis in the church. That means you had Reformation. Reformation, in a sense, became a fight between the Catholics and the Protestants, leading to several wars of religion. Then, with the end of the 15th century, which is that means, in a sense, known world for the Europeans was quite small. So they had to explore a lot of areas. That means they need maps. Now, what are the causes of geographical discoveries? One year at the end of the Constantinople, 1453. That means need to search new routes to Asia. Why new routes? In search of spice, silk, and other products as well. And it also brought about the end of La Reconquista. That means Europeans will continue to expand, opportunity for authoritarian monarchs to gain power and glory. Then there was also the growth of the idea that the earth was sphere, in a sense, possibility to reach India and rest of the other countries in Asia by traveling west. Then they had the technical innovations or inventions like compass, astrolabe, caravels, and more accurate maps, which made the navigation much easier for the Portuguese as well as the Spanish explorers. Then again, new mentality, in a sense, humanism, plus will to spread Christian faith versus Islam, that encouraged the exploration of new territories. And in the end, especially in terms of colonization and expansion of new territories as well. Now, when we talk about products of the rest of the world, especially in America or India or China or somewhere in Southeast Asia, we talk about the silk, spices. Spices, when you talk about spices, you have cinnamon, cardamom, ginger, pepper. Then you have other products like porcelain, perfumes, ivory, and other luxurious products from Asia that entered Europe via Constantinople. When this city was conquered by the Turks in 1453, Europeans had to search for new routes to reach the Far East. So again, like I said, they had new inventions, new innovations. First were the Portuguese. Portuguese were the first ones to explore the Atlantic Ocean, southwest side. They were encouraged by Prince Henry the Navigator. Their goal was to reach India by following the African coast and sailing beyond the Cape of Good Hope. Then, after the Portuguese came, Spanish came into the picture. They also started exploring things. Then, in different expeditions during the 15th century, they occupied the coast of Africa until nearly a century later, they reached India in 1498. I'm sure that one of you must be knowing about 1498 who came to India. One of them, one of the Portuguese traveler, was name was Vasco da Gama. He came looking for spices, silk, and took the products way back to his own motherland, Portugal. Then some of the travelers like Bartolomeo Diaz, he discovered Cape of Good Hope. I'm sure that one of you must be knowing where Cape of Good Hope is. It's on the southern tip of South Africa. Then you had Portuguese new maritime routes and settlements on the coast of Africa and Asia that enabled them to control European trade of slaves, spices, as well as silk. Then the other traveler by the name of Christopher Columbus, Italian by birth, his plan was to reach India by sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean since he believed that the earth was sphere. But John Paul II of Portugal rejected his project. The Catholic monarchs supported his expedition. They signed the treaty that granted Columbus to explore a lot of things. He was given the title of the Admiral of the Ocean Sea, that is Atlantic Sea. He was given the title of Viceroy, equivalent to that of the Governor of lands, any lands he might discover, and he also got 10% of the riches that he found. Then he arrived at a place called Bahamas in 1492. He thought that he had discovered India, but actually he discovered Indies. East Indies came into existence. And he called them Indians. And this is the reason East Indies was discovered by Columbus. And the concept of West Indies also came into the picture in the later stage. Now, with the geographical explorations, a lot of things came into existence. Mercantilism, commercial revolution came into existence, and the travelers were able to give a clear and exact picture through their own kings and queens, allowing the kings and queens to rule those areas as well, whether it is America, whether it is Africa, or whether it is India, China, and other parts of Asian countries. Uh, Spanish and the Portuguese also discovered the America, but actually the America, by the name America, came from Amerigo Vespucci, an Italian explorer. He was apported by the Portuguese and Spanish. That's how America was discovered. When it comes to America, certain parts of southern part of America were divided among Spanish as well as the Portuguese. Some were speaking Portuguese, another were speaking Spanish. Then after the Portuguese and the Spanish entered into the race, other countries like England, France, Dutch also came into the picture. There was a lot of competition between these countries. One example I can give in that is that of 1600. In 1600, the British East India Company was formed by the British Queen, Elizabeth I. The purpose of British East India Company was to trade as well as to spread Christianity in India and other parts of Asia. When East India Company entered India in the 17th century, they initially set up a judicial system after trading. They were granted Farman by the Mughal emperor. Then slowly, gradually, they started controlling India. But their sole purpose was to trade. But later on, from trade, it turned into colonization of India as well, and also turned into colonization of China as well. In all the countries in Asia, only one country was never colonized, the entire exploration. That was Japan. Japanese understood the purpose of these foreign powers was to control the products as well as the country as well and exploit them. The After the explorations, a lot of things came into existence. Now we had a period of renaissance, rebirth in new thinking, rebirth of the world, rebirth of the age. So when we talk about the age, new age, that means the old age, which was the feudalistic age, that was gone, that was removed. The old age, in terms of the feudalistic system, it restricted a lot of people. It didn't give the people liberty to decide what they want to decide to explore new areas. Now, with the coming of new thinking, new age, or the modern age, you had rise of literatures, you had rise of merchants, you had rise of arts, sculptures, architectures. Then after that, you had a lot of explorations. That also became part of Renaissance. New studies came into existence. Then you had rise of middle class or business class like Medici family in Florence. Actually, Renaissance started in Italy itself, where places like Venice, Nice, these places became famous. That prompted new teachings among the religious scholars as well. That resulted in a clash of ideas between the Catholic Church and the Protestants. Now, when we talk about Reformation, Reformation in terms of what? Reforms within the system. And when we talk about system, we are referring to Catholic Church here. There was a lot of corruptions in the church that made people protest against the very system of the church. Even though they're not against Catholic religion, but they are against the system that has become so corrupt, that went so deeply corrupt, they're forcing people to rise against those systems. Now, once we talk about the causes of the Reformation, which happened in the 16th century in the church, Catholic Church, what are the reasons that there was general discontent in the church was that of luxurious life of the clergy, especially high clergy. Then there was little formal training and non-moral behavior of the low clergy. Then you have high positions were bought, especially by the Pope as well as the church, high clergies. Then you have sale of indulgence. When you talk about sale of indulgence, in a sense, pardon for sins. Again, when you talk about religious matters which happens today, and for example, we talk about when we talk about religious matters, like we take the example of Supreme, which matter which happened took place in the high courts. Sometimes the religious matters go into the Supreme Court as well. How do we balance the religious life as well as a balanced life? That was questioned in the Reformation as well. Whether they are laws to control the church as well. Sometimes the religious people also interfere in the affairs of the church, affairs of the political system as well. I'll give you one example. In a country like England, King Henry VIII, he was married. He wanted to have a male heir to the throne. He was not allowed to remarry. For him to remarry, he had to take the permission of the Pope, which he never liked it. Initially, he was supporting the church. But for him to marry again, he had to take the permission from the Pope. So, what he did was he decided to go against the church, get married, and he was able to get a male heir to the throne. This angered the Pope. And Pope, besides interference in political matters, they also control the soldiers, especially military matters, which was not liked by the monarchies. So, some of the kings decided to go against the church, make sure that the church do not interfere in the matters of the political system that was existing in different countries, whether it is England, whether it is Germany, or whether it is any other countries, especially Spain as well. So, clash between political masters and religious people as well. So, King Henry VIII had to break away his ties with the Pope, impose tax on them. Huh. Another issue is that of the taxes. When we talk about taxes, we talk about the three estates. First estate is the king, second estate is the nobles and clergy, and also the church. Third estate is that of the commons, whether they're doctors, whether they're academicians, whether they're lawyers. Except the first and the second estate, the third estate has been taxed all the time. The burden of tax was on them. Then people started to protest. Then king had to listen to the people. But when king and the common people came to know that the nobles and clergy were against being taxed, they protested against them as well. These are the reasons for the why Reformation took place in Europe. Now, when we talk about Reformation, it all started way back in Germany, starting with Martin Luther, who came up with his 95 Theses criticizing the activities of the church. He was declared heretic by the church. When we talk about science, development of science, church was also against the development of science. Initially, church used to believe that the earth was the center of the universe. When scientists came, they came up with the conclusion that sun is the center of the universe, not earth. Those scientists were declared heretic, they were declared outcast, they were declared outlaws by the church. They were kept separate from the rest of the society. Another thing is when the people are looking for some sort of morals in a way to look for search for God, but the clergy became some sort of a political setup between people and the God. They represented the gods. So whatever they say is right. But people used to believe them initially. When people later came to know that they were just giving false statements, they decided to go against the church. And another is there was another pope who actually increased the sale of indulgence to finance the construction of St. Peter's Basilica, that is the Vatican City. Then Martin Luther decided to protest against that sale of indulgence. He was excommunicated by the Pope, which I just mentioned. Then he began a new doctrine which spread quickly due to the newly invented printing press. Now, printing press became a new innovation in Germany as well in other parts of the country, other parts of the world as well. Besides compass, besides gunpowder, besides compass, besides cannon, printing press also became a useful technology in terms of Renaissance and Reformation. When you talk of printing press started way back in Germany. It was started by Gutenberg. That helped against the church as well. Then, after the Reformation, people started to question the authority of the church. Then they started to develop their own laws to control the church as well. So, when you talk about both political as well as legal methods, legal aspects of it, it's very much needed. How the political as well as the law, how it developed from time to time, from history, from ancient history till today's history. Like I said, initially I just made a statement that to understand world history, we need to go way back to ancient past. To understand current development, to understand international relations, to understand international law as well, one has to study the past of the history, especially the whole world. How different developments have taken place, how it can have an impact in today's society, how it can have an impact in today's law. Things will change, environmental change, situations will change. How much of it can have an impact in today's law? That's why we need a subject like world history to understand today's current developments, whether it is international law, organization, or law as well, international law. That is why it is very much needed. And this subject is being taught in law schools, not all schools, but some law schools. And I'm sure that you find world history as a very interesting subject, even though some of you may take time to understand it. But once you understand the international system today, international law today, you can understand a lot of things too. Sure. Thank you very much. And wish you the very best next week.